Here comes another Nintendo rant. Brace yourselves.
Yeah.
What's going on, peeps? Mastermind here. So today we're going to talk about Nintendo, and in particular I want to also talk about the new Nintendo game that everybody's talking about, Zelda, or The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. Now, before I begin, let me just start off by saying that I am a Nintendo fan. This isn't coming from a place of hate. This isn't coming from a place where I'm biased, because I actually own a PlayStation 4, an Xbox One, and a Wii U. And my game of the year, if you go back in my archives and look at my videos, my game of the year for 2015 was Super Mario Maker. I put that one above every AAA title, every video game, every great indie game, every single game that came out in 2015. My number one was Super Mario Maker. So I just wanted to get that out of the way first. So the problem that I have is that, unlike a lot of fanboys for any particular console or company, I hold those companies accountable. I don't just sit back and just blindly follow them because they've given me certain great experiences. And Nintendo is no different. I've had a lot of great experiences with Nintendo over the years, and I admire a lot of the things that the company has done. I admire the games that they've made, and I've had great enjoyment out of it. In fact, I can easily say that if it wasn't for Nintendo, I probably wouldn't be into video games today. In fact, most of us can probably say that. So with all of that said, and I don't want to have to keep reiterating my support for Nintendo, but I have to emphasize it because I'm sure a lot of people are gonna click thumbs down and get upset, but I have to be truthful. So one of the issues and one of the complaints that I've had with Nintendo for a long time is that they don't listen to the general public, they don't listen to their fans, and they kind of march to the beat of their own drum. And sometimes that works out well for them, and other times it don't. As far as a money-making thing, it's worked out quite well for them, especially when you consider the Wii. But as far as what it's done for its fans and true people who grew up with Nintendo, it's been a huge disservice. Now, some people will argue, oh, they've made great games, Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, Mario Maker, they remade Wind Waker, they have all these great games, and you're just, hating on them. Look, the people who create the games are different than those who make the decisions for their hardware and a console. And I commend those folks who are making those games because they do a hell of a job. And especially given with the hardware that they have to deal with, because it's vastly underpowered, and it's been that way since the Wii. So let me start off with what's going on with Zelda. So this game right here, I'm gonna straight up say it, I am not that impressed with it. I don't know why everyone's freaking out over it. Corporate media, like IGN, video game corporate media, said that it was game of the show. So think about the odds of that. Nintendo only has one AAA title that they're showing. One, that's it. Meanwhile, you got Sony, you got Microsoft, you got EA, you got Bethesda, you got Ubisoft. And all these companies are working hard and showing off all these games, and on much more powerful systems, much larger worlds and more detail, more things in it. And here we have Nintendo, who is showing off a Zelda game. For the first time, it's really like a big open world kind of game, something that a lot of people wanted, and I get that, I understand that. But if you really compare The Legend of Zelda to, let's say, Skyrim, or, and I'm talking this Zelda, or The Witcher 3, or any other huge open world game, I would say that, and again, I can't judge it because the game hasn't come out yet, but I would say that it's at best at that level, and I wouldn't even say it's at that level of like a Witcher 3 or a game like that. But clearly looking at it, it's the largest open world game that Nintendo's probably ever created. And I commend them for that. And it looks decent. It doesn't look horrible, but compared to today's standards, it's really weak. It looks very washed out, and there's a lot of texture popping and drawing. And again, I will emphasize for those who will accuse me of being biased that I do know the game's not complete yet, and it's a little bit a ways off, and we're probably looking at the Wii U version, not the NX version. So I take all of that into consideration, but still, at the end of the day, to call it game of the show. So Nintendo has one game, all these companies have all these other games, and IGM hails this as game of the show. I have a problem with that. I just don't think that that makes any sense. If you hold it to the standard of an Assassin's Creed or Witcher 3 as far as open world is concerned, does it really stack up that great? Is it really just as good or better than any of those games? Was this more impressive than God of War? I can't say it is. In fact, a more intriguing world to me is The Last Guardian. And I know The Last Guardian has been in development hell for some time, and we don't know what that game's going to end up being, but I can honestly say that when I look at this, yeah, nostalgia purposes, I'm very excited. But if you take away the character Link and you put it just a generic other character in there, how impressive is this game really? How impressive is that open world that they showed us that we haven't? Is this showing us something that we've never seen before? Okay, so Link can chop down trees and push boulders down hills and he can climb on rocks. How many times have we seen that in video games? We've seen that over and over and over and over. Why is it that Nintendo gets this special pass and people are talking about this game as if it's doing something so revolutionary that it deserves to be game of E3? And what even makes it crazier is that Nintendo really didn't even attend E3. And yet it's still getting the credit for being game of E3. It's showing off a game in an open world that it's showing off things that we've seen before. So how is it that Nintendo continues to get this? Now, I'm not accusing IGN or any big corporate media of being paid off or bought off or maybe even just being biased. But I do question, how do they come up with that considering all the other great games that we saw? And that's another thing. It's kind of a slap in the face. If you're a developer and you're working really hard on a game and you know that your game is like the best game out there or coming out and the most impressive, and then all of a sudden you lose to a company who, let's be honest here, they're kind of just winging it. I don't see Nintendo really putting forth this great effort for their fans. I really don't. And I'm a Nintendo fan. I own a Wii U. So I don't understand this. And it goes beyond just me being a fan. I've really supported Nintendo. So anybody who wants to question that, I mean, I've had like 4 different 3DSs. You know, they've broken over time and, you know, we keep buying them. You know, this is my second Wii U actually that I purchased straight up. So I don't want to hear that. Don't tell me that I'm biased. So what I want to get into now is some of the comments and the quotes coming from Reggies Comments at Nintendo, and I'm just going to come out and say it. I don't really care for the guy. He seems like a real shyster to me. I understand why Nintendo hired him. He's got a pretty good reputation of being able to put words together and sell things, and he's a little bit brash and a little bit kind of sarcastic. So, you know, I understand why Nintendo has him. He's a good spokesperson in that way. He's a good face for Nintendo, but at the end of the day, he's just a salesman. That's really all he is. He's the face of Nintendo for America, and he's pretty much out there to sell everything that is Nintendo. So when you have people like that, of course, you have to understand what they're doing isn't probably 100% truthful, because they're going to lay out what they want you to see. And what he wants you to see is vastly different than what the reality is. The state of Nintendo for the last few years has been pretty bad, but every time you see him, he's out there really trying to make everything look great and present Nintendo as, you know, doing exactly what they want to do and getting the results they exactly want to have. So anyway, let me read you this quote that he said during E3. I think this was an interview that he had with Forbes. So pretty much when he was asked, how does the NX stack up to the upgraded consoles from Sony and Microsoft that we're going to probably see later this year, maybe early next year? And this is how he responded. It's not about specs. It's not about teraflops. It's not about the horsepower of a particular system. For us, it's about the content. Nintendo is a content-focused company. We create entertainment that makes people smile. So for us, we're focused on bringing our entertainment to both the Wii U as well as the NX in the future. He goes on, so for us, Whatever Microsoft and Sony are doing in terms of talking about new systems, that's for them to fight out in that red ocean. For us, we want to make sure we're bringing out our best content forward, and right now the reaction to Zelda has been more than we could have ever imagined. Now, did you see what he just did there? That was a very interesting tactic that he did. In fact, if you know anything about sales, if you know anything about politics, you would have picked that up immediately. And basically what he did was he redirected the conversation. He was able to control the conversation really without any pushback. So they specifically asked him about the hardware of the NX, and he shifts and talks about the content of Nintendo's games. He's talking about their software. And this is the real interesting thing about it. In most of the circumstances, if he would have shifted to the software, it would have been a disaster because they have one game they're talking about, literally one game. So he's basing the entire content that he's talking about on one game, where the reporter should have asked at that point, hey, so what other games other than Zelda are you talking about? But of course, everyone is acting like this new Zelda is the greatest and most revolutionary thing we've ever seen. And that's my argument, that it's not. So I don't understand where Nintendo is able to get this pass that they keep getting. They get it from the media, they get it from the fans, and even get it from people who hate Nintendo. It's just all of a sudden, it's like, oh, okay, well, Zelda's coming out and it's an open world, so let's just, forget everything else. Let's call this game of E3. It's the #1 game out there, which it isn't. And let's talk about how the NX is an underpowered system, but we're just bringing out this awesome content, which they're not. So I don't understand this, and this is why I won't give them a pass. And what this really comes down to is what the reality is compared to what the folks over at Nintendo are saying. So here you have Microsoft and you have Sony, who are talking about VR, and they're talking about their new consoles. And you have Nintendo, who isn't really saying anything about their consoles, other than their new console, other than the fact that it does exist. But the only reason why I think about this, the only reason why Nintendo is talking about or bringing out a console now is because the Wii U is struggling. So if they don't bring out a console that's really powerful and really amazing, then what's the point of bringing out another console? Like, if you failed because you did something, why do the same thing over again? I don't understand where the mentality and how they think that this is going to work. And then how do you have an entire press conference where your only AAA title is a game that we've kind of been waiting for 3 years? So again, all of these things combined together, I don't understand how the media and how a lot of Nintendo fans continue to just support this. Let me tell you, in my life and in my experience, when it comes to anything I've ever been involved with, whether it's working for a corporation or dealing with friends and family members or seeing things on politics, even when you watch films, anytime you ever allow people to do the same thing over and over that's dissatisfying another person or the masses or whatever it is, if they continue to get a pass, guess what? They're going to continue to repeat history and do the things that a lot of people don't approve of over and over, because if you're not calling them out, why would they change? And this goes for pretty much everything in life. If you're talking about politics, if you're talking about dealing with a business or corporations or personal relationships or your children, if you continue to allow behaviors over and over and over again, then what do you think these people are going to do? They're not going to change. And Nintendo seems to still be riding that wave of the Wii, where they think that they're going to create this gimmick that's going to revolutionize the video game industry. No matter how crazy it is, no matter how much they want to go against what the standard is in the industry, they want to do their own thing. And I think a lot of that is revolved around money. They create the cheapest type of hardware possible. And I don't mean that it's not durable, because Nintendo's consoles are pretty durable, but they're extremely underpowered. And the quality of their graphics and sound and the ability, their memory and the ability to have different applications and all of that has just been terrible, terrible, terrible. And, You know, they don't have to do all of that stuff. Just give me a good gaming machine. Give me something powerful. Give me something that is going to blow me away. And Nintendo just refuses to do that. They want to give us these gimmicks, and I'm not impressed by that. If you're a Nintendo fan, you would agree with me and you would demand and want more from this company that's given us so many video game hits. And again, we have to distinguish the difference between the people who are developing games and the people who are making decisions as far as their hardware is concerned and the future of the company. Let's try to think about it this way. Let's say this particular game we're looking at right here, Zelda. Let's say this was running on an Xbox One or a PS4 and running on the Unreal 4 engine. Imagine what they would be able to do, not just in terms of graphics, because I know a lot of Nintendo people kind of harp on, well, graphics don't make a game or whatever. So let's just put graphics aside for a second. But imagine with the processing power, what they would be able to do as far as gameplay is concerned. If you think of The Witcher and you think of Assassin's Creed, and you think of all of these games that I'm talking in the new generation versions of them, look at how much more they've been able to improve those games as far as the things you can do in the world. You can't look at this game and tell me that this game wouldn't be a better game on better hardware. It absolutely would be a better game. And that's the whole point that I'm making when I'm talking about Zelda is, you know, is this really revolutionizing anything? No, it's just Zelda in an open world, and that's why everybody's excited. And reason to be excited, I get it. But to call a game of the show and to continue to give Nintendo a pass, I just can't do it. Anyway, that is going to be it for this video. If you got something to say, please leave a comment down below, drop some knowledge. I know a lot of people are not going to agree with me, but just think about it this way. Is Nintendo really delivering everything you wanted to? If the answer is no or maybe, then really maybe you should be on my side and rethink the whole situation. Anyway, again, leave a comment down below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you once again for watching. Mastermind out.
Da 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 da. Shut up. Da 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 da. Shut up. Da 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 da. Shut up. Da 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 da. Shut up. Da 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 da. Shut up. La 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 la. Shut up. Do 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 do. Shut up. Do 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 do.